Hi everyone, and welcome to this special edition of the Desteni I Process live Google Hangout. Tonight we are coming, or today we're coming to you on a Sunday instead of on our regular Thursday, simply because one of the participants here weren't able to make it to our regular time. You are, as always, welcome to participate in the conversation, ask questions, and write comments. You do that through our Google Plus event. So if you happen to be on YouTube watching this right now live, you can click on the lower left corner where it says, it's over here, where it says be part of the conversation. If you click that, you'll be taken to our Google Plus page where you are able to type in your question and we can answer it and give perspectives on it live here on the Hangout. We're currently busy with support. And before we start, I have to make the disclaimer that we're not here in any professional capacity. We're not doctors or psychiatrists. So if you do have a medical issue or if you're concerned about a medical issue, we do suggest that you seek out a physician or a doctor. So we're simply here sharing our own personal experiences and insights. In today's Hangout, we're going to discuss inflamed bowel diseases and specifically Crohn's disease, and the other one is called colitis. Is that correct, Peter?
It is, yes.
Colitis. And we have two participants with us, one here who has Crohn's disease and the other one who has colitis, but they're both part of a group of diseases, autoimmune diseases called inflamed bowel diseases. So hi to Garb from the US.
Hello.
Hi, Garb, and hi to Peter from Holland.
Hi.
Hi, or from the Netherlands, sorry.
Well, actually, it's both is right because I'm in the province of Southern Holland, so it's okay.
Okay. Guys, so I'd like to just first talk a little bit about what is Crohn's disease, what is colitis, so that the viewers who aren't familiar with these diseases can get a bit of insights into what it is that you're struggling with or that you're experiencing. So Garb, let's start with you. Can you briefly explain to us what Crohn's disease is and how were you diagnosed?
Okay, sure. Crohn's disease is an intestinal disease. It happens in the intestines. For mine, it's in between the small intestine and the large intestine. I forget what the word is called, but it's in a specific spot. That's what I guess that's the most common spot, is in that little kind of like a pathway between the small intestine and the large intestine. I think it's called the duodenum or something like that. And what it basically does is the good bacteria attacks the bad bacteria. So it basically, your body attacks itself, not knowing that it's attacking something that is helpful for the body. So when you eat food, for instance, your body doesn't, the intestines are already kind of messed up because of this happening of the body attacking the good bacteria attacking the bad bacteria. And so the food kind of just goes right through you. You don't take in nutrients that you need to, and that causes the fatigue and the sickness and bloating and things like that. And so I was diagnosed when I was about 21. My family has it in their history. It's hereditary for me. My sister also has Crohn's, and my other sister has colitis. So it's in the family, the autoimmune disease. And I was just sick for a while, and I just did a bunch of tests. It took a while to figure out actually what it was. I had to go through a bunch of tests, and finally they figured out it was Crohn's disease. And I've had it now for about 10 years, 9 or 10 years.
All right. And Peter, can you share with us what colitis is and what the difference is between colitis and Crohn's disease? And also when you were diagnosed.
Okay, so actually the whole part of what Gabrielle was describing of the immune system is the same. The difference is that colitis is actually inflammation of the colon. So it actually concentrates on the colon, and what it does there, it develops open sores, ulcers that produce pus and mucus, and well, you can imagine that leads to some kind of discomfort. We'll go into that a little bit later, also in detail. So that is the difference between the two. So the starting point is approximately the same. It is your body is not recognizing the proper the bacteria and is acting against it. And the best way of treatment is actually to find a balance and work on your immune system and stabilize that. But also that can be discussed a little bit further on. So it's to resume, it's mainly the colon inflammation that is the outflow of this disease. And I have been diagnosed when I was in my 20s, early 20s. I'm 48 now, so it's a pretty long time ago. And actually, I lived for quite a long time without having any symptoms for about 20 years. And it only pops up in situations where I am under quite a lot of stress, actually. So.
Yeah, and I was going to ask about that as the next question, in terms of how has having this disease, how has that affected your life? What consequences does it create in your life, Garb?
For me, it wasn't so severe. My sister actually has it pretty severely, so I haven't had it, terribly. But it has affected, a lot of times at work, stress is definitely a trigger for me. And so work, feeling sick, having to go to the bathroom, that's also a problem. And yeah, just, you can't really do much if you're feeling sick. So it kind of, if you're stressed in any situation, it can come on, and it's going to affect your participation in that, in that activity. So it can really affect any time in your life, any area.
But has it had the consequence that you had to, for example, go home for work or call in sick a lot, or like you couldn't attend parties, some stuff like that? Or was it not to that extreme?
No, for me it wasn't to that extreme. I also have always had like a tolerance for pain, so I just kind of, got used to it actually, and from there just dealt with it and kept going, but I always felt sick during it.
Wow, and Peter, how has that been for you? What consequences have you seen in your life in terms of how it affected you?
Actually, the disadvantage from colitis compared to Crohn's is that you definitely need to run to the toilet quite often, because of in fact it is the colon that is inflamed. And I can remember that I was working as a student tour guide here in the Netherlands, and it was pretty tough because you had to wait until the tour bus stopped somewhere, and then you had to run to the toilet while you were supposed to be the guide for the people, talking about the nice churches we were looking at, or the buildings and that kind of stuff. So it caused different situations of you had to be very inventive in finding the right way to deal with it. But I faced it all, and I could live with it. And the other thing is the same as what Gabrielle says, is that your problem is the lack of energy you have. Undergoing a constant inflammation causes your body to be tired, and the consequence of that is that you cannot participate fully in all the things you might want to do. So after a day of school or work, whatever it is, you don't have the energy to go out partying with your friends. It's just your day finishes at 10 o'clock and you have to go to bed. It's very simple. So that is one of the points that, especially if you're young, is pretty tough to deal with, because it is limiting your participation into society.
So has having this disease, is that something that has affected or changed your relationship to, or the view on your body, Peter?
Oh, it has, definitely, because you have to really take into account that you have a physical body. So on the other hand, I'm pretty glad I had this disease, because it forced me really to look at my body and to listen to my body and to understand my body. And it took me quite a lot of years to find a nice balance between activities, food, and also medication. Understand if medication was working or not, etc. So, but it made me aware of my physical body, and that is really a positive thing, because you learn to listen to your body, you learn to understand the signals it gives, and act on those signals in order to keep the best stability, the best stable situation, and that you can go live on and not push it too much to a limit that you will regret afterwards, and causing you effectively to stay in bed for a couple of days because you went too far. Sometimes you have to do that, but you can find a better balance.
Yeah, I was wondering about this point of taking it too far. Also, Garb, you were saying that you simply got used to it. And I can imagine that with some diseases where you might actually be able to some extent ignore it, because we talked a couple of weeks ago, we talked to someone that had diabetes, and he talked about how he would kind of try and ignore that he had the diabetes, which would then create even more consequences. Is that something that you've also experienced in your life?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I pretty much, like I said, just got used to it. So it was just something that I kind of put to the back of my mind, and I went on with my day. And, you know, if I got sick, I got sick, and I just dealt with it. And so, actually, I kind of was in this like autopilot with the disease. And then when I went to the farm the first time, that's really when actually Bernard told me, you know, you need to look at this disease. And because I actually got really sick when I was at the farm the first time, because I was kind of anxious to be there and the stress of, you know, traveling and stuff. And so we kind of did a whole diet regimen and did a bunch of things to kind of specify what causes the you know, reactions and such. And so, yeah, from that point on, I kind of realized, okay, I need to listen to my body. I need to take care of it. I need to become aware of what I'm putting into it and how that reacts, and, you know, what is causing this, my thoughts as well, what kind of thought patterns are causing this stress and things like that. So, you know, going to the farm the first time actually kind of opened my eyes to a whole new reality with my body, and, you know, stop the autopilot and, you know, listen to it because it's telling me something.
Very interesting. I'd like to switch topics here a little bit and go into what you were mentioning earlier a bit, Peter, about the taboo that can be involved when you have a disease that involves, for example, the bowels, as something that, at least in some cultures, can be considered taboo and something that you don't talk about. And also in relation to this point, what reactions or responses you've experienced from other people in relation to this disease. And so I've noticed, and we also talked about this a little bit before we started the Hangout, that there has come this new trend on Instagram where girls who has, for example, Crohn's disease or other diseases involving their bowels, causing them to have to wear these colostomy bag, where basically, am I correct to say that it is the feces is collected in that bag, or the urine?
Yeah.
If you guys know, yeah. And so there's come this trend where they take selfies, pictures of themselves, where they show this bag as breaking a taboo that previously would have been, you know, you should never expose that you wear this bag. So what is your perspective on this? Do you see it as a positive development that people are now able to show this in public? And also, what is your perspective on and your experiences with taboos in relation to your disease? Let's start with you, Garb.
Okay. Taboos. Okay. Yeah. It's, for me, I see it as a positive thing because it's you know, kind of putting the spotlight on a difference that you know, many people have many issues going on in their lives, and because it's not a cookie cutter you know, photoshopped picture, you know, we kind of go into the mindset that every person has to be perfect and every person has to be, you know, a certain look. And, you know, this campaign, I guess, to show that there's people that are going through things, that the colostomy bag is a collection of the you know, urine and the feces, because the intestine has been cut away so much that it's actually not even working anymore. So, you know, someone with a colostomy bag is actually, you know, has a serious problem inside their body that they need that. So it, you know, it's cool in the fact that it shows, you know, put yourself in another person's shoes and see that it doesn't really matter who you are, what you look like. What matters is figuring out, you know, what's going on within your body and finding solutions to support yourself and your body to, you know, be the best you can be.
And have you experienced any taboos for yourself in relation to having a disease where it's the bowels that are involved, and also if you've had any reactions from other people in this regard?
Yeah, actually, I discussed the matter just a couple of days with my partner, and I came to the conclusion that there is a general taboo for me on being ill or sick or not being fit completely, and that is apparently something that I downloaded from my parents, and that is maybe specifically a cultural thing, that you don't talk about those things, you just go on. With that kind of luggage, I actually never talked with people about my disease when I was in my early 20s. Happily enough, I've seen that both myself and also our yeah, the way people are dealing now within our society has changed, and there is a lot more room to talk about diseases, to talk about the consequences of diseases, how you live with it, and how you can deal with it, etc. So definitely I see a change there, and this change is very important also to deal with the factors that play a role with getting this disease or triggering it, actually, because I believe that I probably was suffering from this disease much earlier than in my 20s, but it was a stress situation, a big stress situation, that caused the disease to really become active and to have this well, the consequences of it. And I was free of any symptoms for a long time, until I had another situation in my life where I was living for a long time under quite a long stress situation, and of course I knew that automatically I would have to deal again with the consequences and how do you call it, the consequences of this disease, and having to go on medication again, etc. So what I was looking at, and that is very important, especially if you look to my process I'm working with Desteni, is the role of the mind here, how you deal with it, how you participate in thoughts, and you're convinced about different things, etc. And also being able to handle those points in a much more effective way helped me a lot in dealing with stress situations. And the situation now is that in a combination with specific medication and working my process, I can deal with stress situations much better, and I can minimize the consequences I have from this disease to a minimum, which is really great because also I'm getting older, and well, it is more and more difficult to get a specific balance in my health.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about stress because it's something that you both have mentioned as being a significant factor in this disease. And Garb, we actually have a question for you here from Joanna, and she's asking, or she's saying, thanks for opening this point, guys. In 1 year, I came across 3 people that suffered from this disease. How do you relate it with stress from work? What kind of policies would you recommend for business society to apply to prevent these consequences? And here it would be very cool if you could relate on your own experiences in terms of maybe because also that's easier to see, and that what would have supported you to actually prevent yourself from becoming so stressed that this disease flares up, or even that you get this disease to begin with.
Right. The stress at work, basically it was based on physical points like not being organized, not being disciplined enough, like leaving things to the last minute, and then mentally it's like reactions, like reacting to a boss or reacting to another employee, and you know, allowing that point to fester in your mind, not taking responsibility for it, not, you know, walking a process to stop the thoughts and figure out why you're reacting. through the writing, figure out, you know, how you can change yourself to stop those reactions in the future. So, you know, it's a personal point in the writing, as well as I've implemented many organizational points, delegating work, delegating responsibilities to other people. You know, one of my points was, you know, wanting to control all the projects that I was involved in, like micromanage and kind of make sure everything is perfect when it's kind of an impossible goal. You know, you have to allow people to walk their process as well and make mistakes and, you know, learn from them, as well as myself. I'm not perfect either. So, yeah, just policy-wise, I haven't really ever thought of that. Maybe just, you know, personal policies, become more disciplined. Yeah, you know, take one project at a time. For myself, I do like a mini day schedule where I do like a certain specific task in the morning, like emails and, you know, checking logs and things like that. And then for like 4 hours I do billing, and then the end of the day I do outgoing mail. So I kind of schedule my day, plan my day, have everything organized and specific, know what I'm going to do, and that relieves a lot of stress because you're organized, you know what's coming. And definitely the mental points, as well as, you know, stopping your reactions to other people, finding solutions to what is causing the reaction within you, and, you know, that has relieved a lot of stress as well.
Something we can also consider in this context is that we've created a society where stress to some extent is seen as something positive. You know, just walking in any big city and you will see people walking in a pace that might not actually be supportive for their physical bodies, and it's seen as a positive to be quick and to rush through your day. And so that would be something that could be changed on a structural level, but that of course requires that awareness and care for our bodies. And like you were saying earlier, Peter, in relation to that taboo towards the body being flawed or the body having issues, that there's this kind of unrealistic expectation towards what our bodies can handle. And then it's only when you go down with stress and you burn out so completely that you kind of have to reset and rethink your entire life. But like Garb was saying, that's usually something that has to happen on an individual level, because our societies are certainly not geared to care for people in this way. Did you want to share a perspective on this, Peter?
Oh yes, definitely, because the funny part is that the schedule part is also a very strong thing I'm using. If you look to my Google agenda, actually my whole day is planned quite into detail. And the reason for that is very simple. If I don't do that, if I'm not managing my time properly, I get stressed. It's still a point I'm working on, because I react also on other people not planning their day properly, because I feel as if they might get stressed, which gives me stress. And the stress point is definitely something I'm very sensitive to, because I know that stress is causing aggravation of my disease, is something that is against being productive in the best way I can, and will cause me to be tired at the end of the day, not being able to finish all the tasks I scheduled, etc., etc., which is leading to frustration. Frustration causes stress, etc. So that is a really important thing, and definitely working very hard to get a nice balance in there.
Okay, so guys, let's start looking a bit at the solutions here that you have applied in your life in relation, because you're talking about organizing yourself in relation to stress, for example. But can you share other examples of how you've supported yourself through walking the Desteni I Process course or courses, and using and applying the Desteni tools for yourself in your life? Any other solutions that you'd like to share, Garb, for example, with people who are facing and suffering with walking with this disease?
Sure, yeah. One of the first points that I walked was I was not very keen with the medication that I was giving. I did take it, but I saw that it was a lot of medication, and it didn't solve the issue. It was kind of just what it actually was a coating that went over my intestine lining inside, and it kind of coated the Crohn's disease. So, it wouldn't affect the food, and I guess the body kind of didn't attack it so much, but it didn't solve the problem basically. So what I did was I started to investigate different ways to support my body other than medication. And so I looked into diet. Diet was a big point. What food caused reactions. And a lot of the foods that did were like greasy foods, and also like the intake of food. I would do smaller meals, like 5 smaller meals a day rather than have a huge meal, because having so much food go through the intestine system just caused a lot more stress on the intestines. So eating less is something that I suggest as well. It did support. Another point was I drink a lot of water. I still drink a lot of water. I also drink apple cider vinegar in my water now, and I've also been drinking a tablespoon of baking soda and like an 8-ounce cup of water every night, just because I've read that your body is basically acidic. It's diseases can grow and live in acidic environments, and the food that we eat causes that acid to develop. Mostly greasy foods and kind of like the American diet, meats and things like that. So I've kind of started to put more oxygenated substances into my body, and baking soda was one, and this apple cider vinegar as well as one. So just kind of balancing my body's chemistry, basically, to be more oxygenated. And I stopped taking the medication because I didn't see it supporting me. And I actually had no health insurance for like a year. So I didn't have the medicine. I couldn't get the medicine because I didn't have the money to buy it outright. So I kind of just stopped using it because of reasons of not having health insurance. And in that time, I started to, compensate by changing my diet, eating healthier, drinking more water. I stopped all sodas, any kind of sugary drinks, or, I did eat chocolate and things like that, but I didn't eat so much junky type foods. I also just recently stopped dairy, and that has supported, because I had a bit of lactose intolerance. And so I stopped taking the medication about a year and a half ago. And for people that have this disease, Crohn's disease and like colitis, you have to have a colonoscopy every 3 years, just to, measure what the disease is, where it is, has it grown, has it decreased. And I took one 3 years ago, and then I recently just took one. And my Crohn's disease actually lessened in those 3 years. It's decreased, and it's gotten better, basically. So I, attribute that to the diet that I've changed, the adding more oxygenated substances in my body. Also, I take a lot of vitamins as well, supplements for the nutrition that's not being integrated into my body through the food because of the disease. And so, it's supported in lessening it.
And is it correct that there is no cure otherwise for these diseases?
Yeah, that's what the medical industry says, but they also don't support, well, I found in my own case, in my own research and things like that, but the doctors would just support medication, and they didn't really support, they do have options of doing nutritional things, but they don't, support in, moving that forward. You have to kind of do all that on your own. They're not going to tell you how to eat, for instance. They say that, eating causes the reactions, but they don't go into specifics on what you should eat or how you should eat, things like that. So all of that I had to do on my own research. And I haven't cured it, but I've lessened it, which I think is a pretty significant point. One other point is the mental as well. I figured out also what thoughts triggered, the reactions and the stress, and kind of honed in on specific thoughts, specific memories, and did self-forgiveness, walk the Desteni process of self-forgiveness and self-corrective statements to change my living, to stop the stress and to find solutions to the stress.
And how about you? Sorry?
No, I'm done.
And how about you, Peter? Can you relate to what Garb is sharing here?
Absolutely, quite a lot of things. So the food is absolutely important. I've been monitoring my food for quite a while now. I've eliminated quite a lot of things, and pretty drastically actually, just to find out how my body was reacting to those different types of food. And the difficult part there is that in different situations my body might react on specific food or not, so I have to monitor also if I'm in a situation of stress, how my balance of my body is at that specific moment. So sometimes I can eat a little bit more stuff, I don't have any consequences, and other times, well, I'd better not eat it. And I'm pretty specific on it. I don't make any exceptions anymore, because I know that if I'm under stress and there is an inflammation active at that moment, I have to avoid, for instance, raw food, because that is irritating my bowels, etc. So that is definitely a point of attention. Talking about medication, very recognizable. Actually, the medication I use is only to stop the inflammation. There's nothing else they have against or to cure it. There is no cure. And why is there no cure? Because there is not a clear picture of the cause of the disease. Apparently, the medical world is not having enough information about how the body is dealing with the whole process of bacteria and reacting to it, etc. So not having a clear picture on how those processes work in the body causes also not having any real solution to cure you. But that's a general thing. For many diseases we don't have cures, because that is not the focus of our big pharma, as they call it. The only focus there is to give you medication as long as possible. They will not tell you to stop. I always decided myself to stop with the medication, because the specialist, the doctor specialist, is not telling it to me. And I have even reached the point that I have a storage of a specific medication, and I only use it when I think it's the right moment. And the only thing to keep an eye on how the disease is going on, I do a colonoscopy every 5 years in my case. So that is the point. And then, besides, if you look to the solutions, the schedule is very important to reduce stress. Talk about other people, about your disease, the way you're living it, etc. Not making it a taboo, but feel free to talk about it. Discover that you can relate with other people that have different diseases, but also have the same kind of consequences in their daily life. It's really great to share that. And also on a mental level, as Gabrielle said, is I learned to identify quite a lot of thoughts, emotions, like fears about lack of money was a very strong one, because we had a specific point in our lives where I had really a big problem in making enough money to live. That caused a lot of stress, because I felt responsible for it. All these kind of things have been identified, and I'm still working on those points to eliminate them completely, but I can pretty well manage now the situation.
So let me ask you this, Peter. Why would you recommend the Desteni I process to someone suffering from colitis or Crohn's disease? What can someone with colitis or Crohn's disease utilize the Desteni I process or the Desteni I Process Lite for, to assist them with this disease?
And that's especially the last point I said. It's the mental point where you learn to identify specific thoughts you have, and within those thoughts, the emotions, the feelings you have, and by identifying emotions and feelings, which are the negative and the positive outflows of your thoughts, you can start doing self-forgiveness on those feelings and emotions. And doing self-forgiveness, you allow yourself to accept that you are having those thoughts. You learn to deal with it, and you learn also to stop those thoughts. And by stopping those thoughts, you will be able also to stop a specific pattern that is causing, as a consequence of that, eventually a specific type of stress, or leading you into specific situations where you can run into stress situations or unpleasant situations. So definitely it will give you the tools that can help you specifically with the mental side of dealing with it, which is extremely important because the mental side is actually um, guiding the way you're living. So you are actually you believe you are your thoughts. So you are convinced about a specific thing, and you will live accordingly. And unless you're not going to change that, you are not going to see big changes in your life. And that is what I've experienced in my process, which is already going on for a couple of years. That I'm not there yet. It will take many more years, but I really managed to get into a much more stable situation, which is really great because I'm pretty stable in the way I can live my life, deal with other people, deal with my stress situations, deal with my thoughts, emotions, and feelings.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very, I mean, that's certainly not something to underestimate, and also the fact that you've done it yourself, like Garb was also saying before. Guys, we have reached the end of our hangout, but before we finish, Garb, I'd like to ask you also if you have any perspectives on how someone with Crohn's disease can benefit from walking with the Desteni I process.
Absolutely, yeah. I agree with everything Peter said. But also, some things that have helped me by walking the Desteni process with dealing with the Crohn's has been self-discipline. That's a big point that before I never really cared about being disciplined. You kind of just are in your own head doing whatever you want. You don't really think of the consequences of your actions. And so, with self-forgiveness, with walking points through, you have to discipline yourself to stop your thoughts and physical things. You have to discipline yourself to stop doing things that doesn't support your body. And so implementing the Desteni I process into my life, I've become stronger in self-discipline, for instance, and walking a point through and looking at the consequences of my actions. So that's helped me as well with walking Desteni I process.
Guys, thank you so much for participating. Very supportive hangout. And for anyone who's suffering from Crohn's disease or any of these inflamed bowel diseases, you are always welcome to join us at the Desteni Forum and place your question there. And of course, we have the Desteni I Process Lite course where you can actually for free walk a course and learn how to use writing and self-forgiveness that Peter and Garb has been sharing about here today. The next Desteni I Process Hangout is actually going to be on Saturday, next Saturday, on the 20th at 4 p.m. UTC time. We have another guest who weren't able to make it to the regular Thursday Hangout. Of course, all the Hangouts are uploaded on our YouTube channel, so if you do prefer watching them on Thursday, you're welcome to do that. But the next Hangout that was supposed to be the 25th on a Thursday is scheduled for Saturday the 20th at 4 p.m. UTC time. Of course, please remember to subscribe to our channel and rate our Hangouts. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to send us a mail at desteniiprocess@gmail.com or visit our website, desteniiprocess.com. Peter and Garb, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
you, Anna. Bye.
Until next time, bye.